Good morning guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gav aka Baytech, and today in this video we're going to be playing with the RX7. So to start off in this video, we'll go over some updates of the car. Some are good, some are bad for some of you potentially, but yeah, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of planning in the background going on for the future of the RX7. Now, the first of them being the K series is no longer a K series. We've got a 3.2 AWD VR6 in this. That's a V6 6-cylinder, 3.2 just now. And as you can see, the K series is on the ground, and this is a bit of an issue. We've got a hole straight through the piston, and it's taken the bore out, properly taken out that darting sleeve, and we've still got a fucked cylinder 4 also. So yes, that's indeed another injector failure. Now these are Bosch Motorsport injectors. I'm using genuine Bosch injectors. I'm still not sure how it's happened, other than the injector itself has gone lean. It was fine around about sort of 50-60% GE. As soon as you got over 75% GE, that injector just stopped opening. So yes, it ran that cylinder lean, and it's taken out the piston and taken out the sleeve as well. Now, I know it's potential for me to get two sleeves, a cylinder 1 and a cylinder 4 sleeve, and a new set of pistons, and take it down to a machine shop and then get the block rebored and re-sleeved. However, the cost of these engines when you sleeve them is just out of my budget. For an example, when cylinder 4 started scraping and knocking to do with the piston slap, when it nipped up in that bore, I got a new piston for £375, there's a new head gasket for just over £100, I had to put new bearings in it, mains and rod bearings, which has ended up being £300 as well. It was over £1,000 just to repair that one cylinder. Now that financially put me in a bad place. So when I took the car back out again, get some more testing, and then another cylinder went with a different injector and a different brand of injectors, the full lot, yes, I was disheartened. And I got to the point where it's just time to move on from the K series. The K series has been a great engine. It's been in my car since 2018. Not that particular engine, there's been about fucking 6 in or something like that, but they are a good engine. However, in my application, it's just not ideal. Like, I am looking for a lot of torque and a lot of power below 8,000 RPM. The reason for that is because the gearbox are running it for the car to be 4-wheel drive doesn't really like high RPM, and to get high power out of a K series you need to rev them. Another issue as well is because I have a trans brake and a torque converter, the K series doesn't make enough torque down low to spool it up on a trans brake without nitrous. And as you know, I've tried nitrous and I had issues, let's say. So the next stage was to go compound turbo. Compound turbo was an absolute amazing design. I love compound turbo. It's a really, really good setup. I couldn't believe I managed to get it working so well. And it did. It worked really well. It worked almost too well, to the point where I was blowing head gaskets with making so much low down torque at low RPM. Again, this is an issue that K series doesn't like to make a lot of torque down low in RPM. There's lots of various designs in the engine that's designed specifically not to make a lot of torque down low in the RPM. So I was always kind of fighting a battle against the engine that I was hoping I was going to win, but to end up with, I didn't. And you know, for around about 1,000 horsepower, 4-cylinder is just pushing its luck a little bit. And again, I can hear your comments just now. Oh, you know, Speed Factory make 1,500 horsepower. It's like, yeah, they fine, yeah, they do, but they also rev it to 11 grand, and they don't have a torque converter and trans brake. So it's just a different gravy. Yeah, yes, you can make 1,000 horsepower in a K series. How long will it last? 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 passes? Well, it's anyone's guess. You know, it will die eventually, like any engine at that sort of power. So you're now thinking, why the hell am I putting a VR6 engine in the RX7? Like, why would I do that? There's various reasons. Reason number 1, they're cheap and easy to get. £500, you can get yourself a 3.2 VR6. I got a crank free from a subscriber for a 2.8 crank, which steps it down to a 3 litre engine, also known as the R30. Now, you chuck some forged rods and pistons. Granted, pistons are expensive. You're talking £1,300 for a set of pistons, although there is 6 of them. And a big turbo, and that's you for 12, 13, 1400 horsepower. You don't have to do anything fancy. That's just basic stuff. Not only that, it's 6 cylinders, so it shares the load out through more cylinders, which is less stress on head gaskets and cylinder pressure and stuff. And regarding cylinder pressure, because these are iron blocks, you don't need to sleeve them. 1500 horsepower is sort of where they say the limit is. Obviously I'm going nowhere near that. I like the round number of 1000, and that just because they're an iron block, you don't need to sleeve them. So yes, an injector could fail in a VR6 engine, it could do, but the difference is, to get a block for one of these is £200. Get a block for one of these, 2.5 grand. So I just have to weigh everything up, and the future of the RX7, the power I'm after, and the weight I need over the front, I was kind of swaying, and it's been decided upon. Yeah, I'm going VR6. Anyway, I'm sure you're bored of hearing my voice, so we'll start on with the very first step of getting this thing in the car. Well, obviously it's in the car, but it's not mounted to anything. Currently, we have no sump on it because I have bracings that go across the bottom. However, I have managed to get the crank pulley behind the front diff. This is a major for me because it means I can keep the 4-wheel drive system. And talking about the 4-wheel drive system, as you can see, the diff for the front prop is going to hit the oil filter housing. So I'm going to have to come up with a way to make a oil outlet and return, probably with AN10 fittings, and somehow get an engine mount to fit on that plate as well. And now I have made some drawings on paint. This side will be easy. I can bolt off of them 4 here, and then I can mount it up onto this engine mount here, and this one here is going to be the tricky one. So but yes, I can't just bolt it exactly where it is there, although it is nice and far back. The engine is not yet actually touching the gearbox because the gearbox needs to come forward 30mm. Just looking down here for the turbo I'm actually running, this is my G40 1200. It's not the biggest turbo in the fleet, but it should do. Hopefully get it on the trans brake, because these things make monster torque. They're down low in the RPM, especially compared to a K series, so it should be able to get me up in the trans brake with no nitrous and no compound setup. Nice and simple. And yeah, hoping maybe sometime to get an exhaust down there, but it doesn't really look like I've got much space. I was planning on using these stockings manifolds and coming around and making a Y pipe into the intake of the turbo, but I feel like I'm just going to go from absolute start and make an exhaust manifold for it and mount this kind of further forward somewhere. But yeah, as you can see, the gearbox isn't too far away. I've got my adapter plate down there, so yeah, the whole thing needs to come back a bit. But today in this job, what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull this engine back out again, and we're going to measure up some of this bolt patterns, take off this oil cooler setup, and make some plates to bolt onto the engine so we can actually make some engine mounts for this thing. So first things first, I'm going to clean up all this here with a little bit of petrol, clean up all the grease, and I'll also take this oil filter housing and oil cooler off, kind of see what we're dealing with. So I've whipped off the oil filter and oil cooler housing, and it says here we've actually got these O-rings. So I might see if I can try and incorporate that into the new mount. So the new mount will be bolting off these holes here and this one here, and then I'll use O-rings just like the factory one to seal against the block. So to make things a little bit easier, I've decided to drill and tap this. Now that's proper thick. I think it's around about 25-30mm. So yeah, I've drilled this out, and I'm going to drill into 8mm. This is 8mm, this is 8mm, this is 8mm, this is 8mm. Now in my head 10mm would be better because it's a bigger thread, more load. However, the stock Porsches and the Longueuil Passat engines use these mounts as well. So it's obviously designed to take the load on it. And once it's up with a big bit of plate, you got to remember the load is trying to go up and down, the whole engine try to go down and twisting, so it's not as if it's hanging off it in this direction, so I think that should be suffice. So I'll finish tapping this off, we'll get the cardboard out and we'll start making a template. Just like this with my oily hands, so I can see the shape of everything, so I can cut it out. The other one will be down here somewhere. There you go. Just need to make sure it keeps still. Need two hands with this next bit, so bear with. And there we go, first one done. So you can see the oil ports here. I'll actually weld AN10 weld-on fittings onto the plate itself. And obviously drill these through. This is where the tube will be for the actual engine mount itself. So I feel like, you know, this main 4 here is more than enough to support that, and this one's obviously just to help any flexing that would be on the O-rings of the plate. So I think that should work quite well. There we go, so that's both of them done now. What I'll do is I'll chop these templates out, I'll stick them on a bit of steel, and I'll cut out the general shape first. And then for the holes, I'll probably just like mark crosses across the middle of the hole. That's not in the middle obviously, but I'll mark them in the middle, and then I'll use like a centre punch to punch through the paper onto the steel, and then that way I'll just drill through, and you're guaranteed it won't line up. It should, it's literally the holes that is there, but you know, practicality and theory and stuff like that. I know there's guys out there that be like, oh, you should measure it and get it all accurate, it's the next thing, but you know, I want to just get things cut out just now, and go from there. This one's going to be a bit of a beast because it's going to be over 10mm steel, so it'll take me a bit of a while, but I'm just trying to keep the design nice and simple, because cutting these out is a lot easier than if I was to do bends and all that jazz. So yeah, let's see what goes. I probably will need to cut out a section here though, for the oil dipstick, but I've just left it flat just now, and then once I've got the dipstick location and the angle I can get, I'll probably just put this shave at an angle so it can still come out.
2,000 years later.
Right, so that's the first one on now. I'm really not sure what I'm going to do with this dipstick hole. I might actually just block it off and then use like a level sensor into the max ECU. Then that way I could even use level as a trip as well as pressure. So I'd be interested to see the data, what happens. Obviously I'll need to make a bit of a sump down here. I'd be interested to see if the oil sloshes out or not. So yeah, that's maybe an idea in the future. But yeah, they're 8mm bolts. I've drilled the holes to 9mm, and you can see we've just got a tiny bit of play, so that's absolutely perfect. Not so much to play, but I mean the bolt holes actually end up lining up nicely, so which is unusual for me, but obviously that sort of technique using my thumb was pretty accurate. So these ones here, I'll have AN10 fittings on here. I'm waiting for them to come. So this one here, this is the center of the hole, but it's quite close to this, so I may actually move it over slightly, so have it maybe here, and for the AN10 fitting to go into here, and then AN10 fitting into here, and they'll come away and they'll go to an oil filter relocation piece, wherever I want to put it, and then I'll probably put it through an oil cooler too, then back here, just in the air to oil cooler, and yeah, everything else seems like it's going to fit. So this is going to be plenty strong for me to get a pipe on there. You can see it's proper thick, this plate, so I'll be able to get a piece of tubing from here up to the engine mount itself, and that'll keep everything in place. So next stage is just to drill this one out and see if we can fit this one too. This is M10, these ones, so slightly the bigger holes, but nonetheless should be good. So let's get it drilled. So there we have it, both sides done now. I've not actually got the right size bolts for these, or length bolts, but I mean they're screwing fine, everything's in place and it's going to be strong enough. Again, a tube will come from here up to the engine mount, so I'm happy I've managed to figure that out, because this side here was going to be a bit of a pain. There's nothing really online that can get an engine mount off of here other than the OEM ones, but with Audi's, the prop shafts is either the other side or comes out the side of the box here, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky. But that's going to do it anyway for this video. I can hear the rain coming on now. Scottish summerside for you, summertime for you. So yeah, that's a good bit of progress for today. I've had good fun getting back into things and fabricating again, doing a bit of mounts and stuff like that, trying to improve my skills, because I'm not the best at this sort of stuff. I'm just sort of learning. Oh, you're always learning. But yeah, I'm just sort of learning different techniques and stuff like that for marking things out, like using CAD and measurements and stuff. Still very much, I wouldn't say rough, but basic in a lot of ways. But I mean, it seems to work. I've got mounts on the VR6 now, so can't be that bad. However, I'll leave it video at this. I'll keep up to date on these videos, and you guys can follow the progress, and we'll see how long it takes to get this thing done. I'd like to have it up and running by the end of the year. I'll probably just leave a day at a time to do specific tasks, like a day to do the engine mounts, a day to bolt the gearbox up, a day to, you know, and obviously we need to build this engine too, some forged internals. So yeah, I think this is going to be good fun, and thanks as always guys for coming along and watching and sticking by the old build, and as usual we'll catch you in the next vid. Cheers.